Shabbos Hagadol, the Great Shabbos, and we are reading Parsha Tzav, which in a year that's not a leap year is always going to turn out to be the Shabbos before Pesach, almost always anyway. And the beginning of Parsha Tzav, we're not talking about Pesach today, we're going to talk about something from the Parsha that begins with a number of commands about the offerings and dealing with the Mizbeach. And one of the first things it talks about is a mitzvah for the Kohen to deal with the ashes that are on the Mizbeach, because on the altar, when they brought offerings, so they would burn certain parts, and especially if it was an Ola offering, which was a burnt offering, nothing was consumed, and the whole offering was burned. So when you burn something, obviously there's going to be a lot of ashes. Ashes make a mess. So there was two particular mitzvos that were associated with the ashes. One was that every day a Kohen would come, take a small amount, take like one shovel full of ashes, pick it up from the pile on the Mizbeach, and then put it off to the side next to the Mizbeach. That was the daily routine. And then the Torah tells us that for Shat Es Begadav, he would change his clothing and put on Velovash Begodim Acherim, and put on other clothing. And then he would take the pile of the ashes that were on the Mizbeach, and that was a big pile and you needed to get rid of it, and he'd bring it outside the camp to some pure place, and then that would remove it from the Mizbeach. So there were two parts, right? One or two separate, actually they're separate. One has nothing to do with the other. One mitzvah was to take the ashes from the Mizbeach, a small amount, move them off to the side, and the second one was to take it away. For the one that he took away, you had to change your clothing. And according to many opinions, it was not a daily obligation to clean the pile. It was when it got to be too big, then you had to remove it, then you would do it. The other part, though, about moving it from the Mizbeach to the side, that was a daily routine. And just a couple of notes on that before we get to the main point, which is that Rashi tells us that when it says he changed his clothing, so he changed into another set of the Kohanic Bigdei Kahuna, what we call the Kohen's special clothes. He just wore an older set that was more worn out, and because he's going to get dirty. And therefore, Rashi says it's not appropriate. You don't wear, the clothing you're going to do to take the garbage out is not the same clothing you're going to do to serve your master. When you're in the dining room, right? You're not going to wear the same clothes when you're doing when you come to an official thing. You're going to wear your best clothes. When you're getting something that's dirty, then you're going to wear something less. And therefore, Rashi actually says it wasn't an obligation to change your clothing. It was a good thing to do because you're going to get them dirty. And Ramban comments and says, actually, it should be it is an obligation, because when you're doing the avodah, when the Kohen was doing the service, he had to have clean clothing. It would be wrong for him to have dirty clothing, and if he's going to use the same clothes to take away the ashes, then when it comes time to do the service, he's going to have dirty clothes. That's a problem. So therefore, he had to change the clothes. Either way, what we see though is that there is number one, there's an idea that out of derech eretz, you don't use the same clothes for doing menial tasks that you're going to get dirty with as you do something official. And as the Ramban actually says, it's an obligation to wear proper clothes when you're doing the service. And that doesn't necessarily just mean for the service for the Kohen in the Beis HaMikdash, but that could be for any service that we do. When we're doing something that's a mitzvah, and we can, especially something to think about Shabbos, we should be wearing nice clothing, and don't wear our weekday clothing, right? And that is part of the mitzvah. So and the other point I would point out from here is that according to Rashi, who says that we should still wear the Kohen wore an older pair of Bigdei Kahuna of Kohanic clothing. It means that even when you're doing the task of taking out the garbage, it's still in the service of a mitzvah. Don't wear your t-shirt and jeans. You still wear something that's a more official thing. So how we dress is definitely very important. The other point that I want to make today is that something from Rav Hirsch, which I saw many different commentaries bring down this quote, this idea from Rav Hirsch. And his point is that we had two different things here. One was removing a little piece of ash from thing, and then the other one is cleaning out when the pile got too big. So we can understand that you're going to take the pile and clean it off. That makes sense. You got to clean up. You can't have a mizbeach overflowing with ashes. It's not going to be very good. It's not going to be useful. You're not going to be able to do anything. But why did they have every day to take a small amount and move it off to the side? And he says that that service, which was known as Terumat Hadeshin, the removal of it or the picking up of the ashes, that he says is really connected to the service of the previous day. It's not really an official part. It is how you begin the new day, but it's really connecting to what happened the previous day. And it reminds people that the new day is not like, oh, everything that we're doing is new and whatever happened yesterday is gone. It's connecting it to yesterday to say that whatever we're doing today is connected to yesterday. And in fact, it's the same thing. We do the same thing every day. And he gives an example, a child, a grandchild who's standing, he's standing in the same place where his grandfather or his ancestor stood. And every day, when you find out what is it that you're supposed to do, you find out what it is based on what was happening before. Our mission is the same as from before. And therefore, the idea of the Terumas Hadeshin is to recall what happened before. We have that whatever we had from all the laws and everything and the history, etc. But the Torah is what we're building on. On the other hand, he says the Hotza'as Hadeshin, the taking out of the ashes and removing them, that's now we're getting rid of everything from before. Right now we're removing. It seems to be a little bit the opposite. We're removing everything from the previous day. He says that when we start this new day, because now we have to make sure that this new day is fresh and it has full devotion. And our attitude is, don't feel like, oh yeah, I just did this yesterday and I don't need to do it today, or it's not such a big deal today because I just did it yesterday. No. Don't let yesterday's accomplishments go to your head. Don't let yesterday's accomplishments affect what you need to do today. You cannot say, oh, you know what, I did enough. It's like, I made my bed yesterday. What do I need to make the bed? I cooked yesterday. What do I need to cook today? Right? There's a lot of things we could say. I did it yesterday. What do I need to do it today for? Right? It says, and he has a line which is, when you think about what you've already accomplished, then and that's what you're spending your time on. Look how much I've done. It can cut off initiative for new accomplishments because I don't need to do any more. Look how much I've done already. But rather, we begin each day like it's the first day, and therefore we're coming in with this attitude of Kol Hayom Chadashot. Every day is new. Every day is fresh. And it's as if we have an attitude of also like every day is like we received the Torah today, right? That's the same idea with everything we do. Look at it fresh and don't get think, oh, I did it already. I don't what's the point of doing it again, or it's boring, etc. On the other hand, we also don't change the way we do things. We have, right, every day we say the same Shemona Esrei 3 times a day. Shabbos, it's the same Shabbos every week. Rosh Chodesh, etc. All these things, we're doing the same thing again, but while on the one hand, it looks like we're doing the same thing over and over again, in a way we are, but what we're learning from the removal of the ashes is that we should look at every day as a clean slate. And and even though I did this last week, when I'm doing it now, it's as if I'm doing it for the first time, or I'm doing it with its own with its excitement and its own actions, etc. And therefore, even the very thing that I just did yesterday, we should be doing today with enthusiasm and a feeling of freshness. And that's the message. Have a great Shabbos, everyone.